Hello, wonderful parents. Today we have Marcus Higgs on the show, a communication coach for parents of preteens, who's going to give us some insights on navigating these pivotal years with confidence and helping our kids reach their full potential. Welcome, Marcus. I'm happy to have you here with us.
Billy, I am excited to be here. I really am happy to be here. Thank you for sharing the platform, and I look forward to this conversation.
Could we start by you telling us a bit about yourself and your experience as a coach?
Awesome. So I studied communication and journalism in university in Alabama. My mom's from the Philippines. My dad's from the Bahamas. So I have the islands on both sides. And the reason I mention that is because my work also deals with multicultural families and understanding third culture kids. After getting my communication degree, I went to South Korea. I taught there for 5.5 years. I actually was a Bible English teacher. And then my worldview expanded. Then I taught in Spain, in Europe. Yeah. I taught in Saudi Arabia with a petrol company and also in Thailand. And I came out of the classroom, but I still wanted to connect with parents and kids. Mr. Rogers said, if you want to help the kids, you support the parents. And that's how I got into this role.
I love how experienced you are with different cultures because it makes a difference, really. And I also have a 10-year-old and a couple of younger ones, and I'm already sensing the shift that comes with entering the preteen years. And parents around me often say, small children, small problems, wait until you have a teenager. But I also know a few friends who genuinely enjoy their teenagers and have a strong bond with them. So I know it's possible. And
Yes.
I would love for you to tell us about the developmental changes happening during this stage, because I believe this is the first step in understanding the challenges of these preteen years.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. People always say, just wait until they're teenagers, wait until they're teenagers. However, there is a possibility to have these as what Ellen Galansky calls the breakthrough years. Adolescence is a stage where they are forming their independence. And I think a lot of the stress or contention or conflict comes when people don't understand what these years are about. Now, oftentimes we want to answer problems when problems arrive. And it's not a problem. It's just, let me see how I could say this. Conflict happens when there's a difference of wants. At this stage, oftentimes the kid wants to explore their identity and the parent doesn't want that. The parent wants to hold on. And that's where a lot of tension arises. Now, as the adult in the room, as the parent who's setting the tone and setting the identity, I would say you're more responsible for creating the environment for their potential to flourish. Now, there are three ways in which there's oftentimes stress with the kid. The first is their identity breaking. When they're coming into this new role, this new understanding of they're not a child anymore, but they're not an adult. It's, what are they? And they're trying to figure out, what am I? Or how does an adult act? But I still want to be a kid. And they're going back and forth. The second thing is collaborative mistrust. They don't know who to work with. Who's a safe adult? And then my parents were saying one thing, but now they're saying a different thing. And when I say saying a different thing, it's they want to get other perspectives. That's not just their parent. And again, it's not that you're wrong. It's just this point of life they're supposed to explore. It's a natural part of life. So they're trying to figure out, who can I trust, what's right or what's wrong, and so on, building their own identity. And the third thing is emotional management. They have big emotions during this time. And what big emotions are, it's quite literally with the chemicals that are being released. Their highs are highs, their lows are lows, as they're testing and trying all these new experiences. And they don't necessarily know how to manage those yet. And that's why, as a parent, we're setting the tone, a trustworthy present parent. So those are the challenges that happen at this age. And if we can meet those challenges, we can do, as your podcast says, unleash. I say nurture their potential. It's not that we're unleashing it, but we're helping cultivate it so that it can express itself fully.
I love that. I love that. And you said it's natural for them to pull back and for us to resist that. So what is our best approach? Because as you said, they're trying to find their identity and looking for another perspective. Usually that's their peers. They're developing as well. So their perspective is not the one that we want them to follow.
So three things come to mind as I hear the question. The first thing is there will be influence from peers. That's a natural thing. Peers don't have as much life experience, but you want them to be surrounded by peers where there's positive influence. They are also going to seek other adults in their lives. And in seeking other adults, you want to be in a community. That's the second thing that comes to mind. A community with other trustworthy present adults. These could be coaches, these could be teachers, these could be other parents inside your parenting group. Because we weren't meant to raise kids alone. It's called
It takes
allo
a
parenting.
village. Yeah.
It takes a village to support a parent. Yeah. And the third thing is, in the framework that I put together, the show up framework, it starts with a strong identity. And what I mean by that is speaking to the inside of what's inside your child, speaking to the story they're creating about themselves, speaking specifically to their virtues and values. And we can go deeper into this, but what virtues are, these are 24 characteristics that are with everybody, every culture, every religion, if you're human, you have these traits, character traits called virtues in action. These are character traits such as leadership, creativity, perseverance, so on, that are working towards the well-being of the community or working towards the well-being of the individual. Values are what's important to them. For some people, relationships are important. For some people, nature is important. Maybe to your kid, creativity is important, but it's theirs. So when you speak to their virtues and their values, you're giving them an identity. And you're like, hey, go do something awesome with this, express this. They're going to mess up. We all mess up. This is part of being human. We are examples for them on how to forge your identity and how to be comfortable in your identity. There's no greater privilege than to be who you are. And that's what this whole process is about. It starts with a strong identity, it starts with community, and it's also accepting that there will be peers and influences, but you want to surround them with positive peers and influences.
Do you think we have a saying that? Who they surround themselves with?
Yeah, very great question. We have an influence. It is out of our control. And I'll give you some more stress. Sorry. One of the bigger problems of this age and that we're noticing, it's from a book called, I believe, The Anxious Generation. Because kids are on their devices at an earlier stage, remember, we are the stories we tell ourselves. If they're seeing all these stories on Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, and social media and so on, their identities are being formed behind the screen. Their identities are being formed in likes and so on. And that's where they're finding their worth to say, I'm part of this. But when the screen closes, they don't know who they are. And if you don't know who you are, when life stresses you, you can't push back against the stress. You can't manage the stress. So that's why a lot of kids are feeling anxious, because they don't know how to manage a stress. So social media is not helping it. So
It's not.
That's another challenge. Yeah. Now, I'm not against social media, but where do we set rules and regulations on how to manage it? So that's one of my workshops that I do. Yeah.
However, we should all have rules, and for ourselves as well, because it's important what we model to our kids. But aside from that, like you said, talk to them about their identity outside of social media. Like, how does that look in practice?
Sure. Two things come to mind. The first one is creating a family culture. Creating a family culture. Culture means people like us do things like this. And it just means a group of people. So there's Bulgarian culture, there's school culture, there's culture just means a group of people who do a certain particular thing. You can have in your home a family culture. Can you say, I'm sorry, Billy, your last name or your family name?
Ivanova.
You can say, us Ivanovas, this is what we do. This is what we do.
Okay.
You're going to do something different, yeah? But we value family, maybe. All right.
I love that.
Or
Yeah.
we value hard work. And that's how you're establishing it in them. Now, they're going to express it their own way, but this is what we do. So that's one way. A second way, a very small tactic, is in your communication with them. Carol Dweck speak about effort. If you want to, don't praise a child for you're so smart or you're so pretty or good or like that. Rather, praise them for making an effort towards doing something. What I like to do is praise them in their effort as they're using their character's traits. So let's say your character trait is leadership. I won't just say, oh, great podcast or great hosting that conversation. I'd be like, you know what? You took the initiative to lead that podcast. And I'm noticing leadership inside. So beautiful. And while I start to speak that, I'm giving you examples of you doing it inside your life. So now when you leave this conversation, you're going to be like, oh yeah, Marcus noticed that I was a good leader. Am I a good leader? Oh yeah, I am, because I did the podcast. So like I'm speaking it to you while you're giving evidence and examples to yourself, and that's fortifying your character or your identity.
Oh, that's amazing. You're planting the seeds in their consciousness. Okay, I'm a good leader, but in a different way, not just saying, wow, you're a great leader. I love that approach.
In English class, we say it's all about changing beliefs, right? And our beliefs are changed by the stories we tell ourselves. So tell them stories of their character.
Mhm, mhm. Tell us more about your framework.
Sure. So the show up framework, I actually work as a life coach with the parents, one-to-one. I used to be a mentor to kids. I used to be a teacher in the classroom, but now I work with a parent one-to-one. And the whole idea is to help you be regulated and keep your stuff together while you show up for your child. And what show up just means be present for your child. Starts with a strong identity. Second is you hold space for collaboration. You want them to grow into their own autonomy, to be an independent person, but you need to support them along the way.
Mhm.
While kids are having problems, they oftentimes think, what's wrong with me? And it creates contention or it creates conflict. And the idea is nothing's wrong with you. Like, this is life. Life has problems. And I'm with you to help solve them. And it's collaborative problem solving. And you're teaching them how to critically think and answer problems. The O is open up communication, because the quality of your communication is directly related to the quality of your life. So teaching them how to speak to themselves and how to speak with others. And the W is wonder and explore this world together. It's project-based learning. It means Angela Duckworth says we take a long activity, 6 months or 3 months, something that we've committed to, and it's a project. And for you, again, it could be this podcast, or it could be a business or something. And for them, it could be learning a language or learning a sport or some hobby they want to do, starting a YouTube channel. And we look at what growth is, personal growth, how it happens there. It gives us something common to talk about. And then UP is unveil your potential, which is ways in which we could celebrate them expressing themselves, because we always celebrate. These years are going to be stressful, yet there's growth in the stress. And that's the whole idea of this show up framework.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if parents realize how much they grow up during this process, during the parenting process. Because if you're faced with a problem and you have to help your child, you'll find an answer and you have to rise up to the occasion.
Yeah.
You talked about open communication. Not all parents have that already, this secure attachment. How do we cultivate that? We haven't yet.
Sure. Yes, each instance is different. And so I know you're a language learner. If somebody asks you, how do you learn English? I would always say in the way that's most relevant to you. You're right. Not everybody has a secure attachment within themselves and with others. And that's something we may have to, that's something we have to explore, because my job as a life coach is to help you come together. So for me, the understanding of trauma is not something that happened in your past. It's the way you're looking at your past story. And it's affecting how you're showing up now. So we can look at that, but then we can look at it and have a new perspective. You can't change the past. You can change the way you look at it. And it changes how you show up now, and it can empower you for a better future, but you have to act now. Having traveled and learned so many stories, I can help you with giving you a new perspective, a new story, so to say, so that you can learn how to bring yourself back together, so that you can be encouraged and confident in showing up for your kid. That might even entail you doing, we say, inner child work, or you writing a letter to your younger self, saying you didn't have the parents or the communication that you needed when you were there, but now I'm here for you. Older Billy, I'm here for you to help bring you together. Because you're totally right. Parenting, honestly, it's for us to figure ourselves out. It's for us to understand ourselves. And a big part of that happens when you let go of the control here and you understand I only have influence. I don't have control.
That's so hard. It's a tough one. I tend to be a more controlling type.
Acknowledging it is the first step. Yeah, so that's all right.
But we do want our kids to become independent. We don't want them to stay at home until their 30s. And it tends to become more often, at least where I live. Kids don't grow up to be resilient, to deal well with stress and adversity. So I was wondering, are there some practices we can use to make them more resilient?
Do hard things. That's the simple answer. And there's this guy named Ernest Hemingway. He said, everybody in life is broken and some are made stronger in the broken places. That's how muscles grow. That's how the egg emerges. That's how the seed is broken. It must grow, and then it's made stronger in the broken places. You want to do it in age-appropriate places. So one way we can say it is, don't do it for them, do it with them. And that's what autonomative support is. How do you make them resilient? Understand what their desires and what their wants are. Using their virtues and values or their character, help them pursue that. And then you support them along the way. That's actually how you teach languages also. It's called +1. It's just right out of their reach. It's just a little bit stressful, but you learn how to manage that stress. And then when that stress is overcome, you celebrate. Hey, this is what you did. Based on what your character is. This celebration is not something I'm pulling out of the air. Rather, this is like you, and you're reaffirming their identity.
Yeah. And small wins give them courage to try even harder things. Yeah. And also they will fail, and we can normalize that because so often we are looking to feeling happy all the time. Feeling bad is not good. And actually it is. All feelings are the same, and we should experience them all to live a healthy life.
Yeah, I hear you say normalize, which is right. We could actually even create an unhealthy joy out of it. And what I mean by that is finding the value in effort, or finding the value in trying. And when we praise, hey, you tried, or you made an effort, let me tell you a story. I was in Spain and we were looking at the vocabulary of a word. And I said, what do you think this means in context? And this kid raised his hand. And I think the word was oscillate, going back and forth. But then he thought it was isolate. And he said something, and I said, close, but that's not quite it. He put down his hand, and I said, great job, Amado. And this other kid raised his hand and he said, but he got it wrong. I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I said, there are 20 of you. All 20 of you got it wrong. He wasn't the only one who made an effort. That means he's closer to understanding. And I high-fived him. I said, that's what I want. I want someone who's going to make an effort. So in a sense, in the classroom, I was normalizing making an effort. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. It's when you make it a habit and you stay there. But yeah.
I wish we had more teachers like you, so kids are not afraid to speak up, because I was one of the kids that didn't speak up just because I was afraid to make a mistake. And I'm trying not to show that, model that to my kids.
Yeah, I won't say it's hard, but it is something we have to learn as parents, as caregivers, as educators. When they make that one step towards something, towards their goal, praise the heck out of it. And if they fall short, acknowledge it, but then you start being curious as to what do they need and why. And when you model that curiosity, again, give them the opportunity to get up and try again.
Yeah. I like to ask kids about book recommendations. Any good reads for parents that come to mind?
Yeah, Ellen Galansky's The Breakthrough Years. I recommended that. It just came out, I think maybe 3 months ago. If you have girls, I would say Untangled by Lisa Denude. There's also The Value Creation Kit, I think it is. And it's showing kids how to understand value creation. That's more for finance and for economics, but then showing them that they're creators as opposed to just consumers. And
That's
showing that from a younger age. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. And are all books that I haven't read. So I thank you for those. I'm an avid book reader, so I would enjoy that.
Awesome. And anything by Dan Siegel. Anything by Dan Siegel.
Yeah,
Dr. Dan
I
Siegel.
love. Is there anything else you wanted to share with us that we didn't get to touch upon?
Repair and reconnection. And what I mean by that is their great expectations. So I'm going to tell you this as a parent, and then I'm going to tell you it as in the context of your preteen. There are expectations from you, from society, and from yourself. You know what your virtues and your values are. You will fall short of those expectations sometimes. Look to yourself and repair and reconnect. Start with truth, be honest with yourself, say, this is the person I want to be, and then these are the actions I'm going to change going forward. And that's how you repair and reconnect inside here. You may have to do that with a friend or with a coach or with a therapist or so.
Or just journal.
Or your journal. Yeah, that's you speaking to you. Yeah. Or your journal. Absolutely right. And also do that with your kids when they fall short of expectations they may have or that you may have of them. Because when you're falling short, again, it's you asking about what do I value? What's important to me? Who am I? Repair and reconnect. Because when you do that, it shows you care. There's conflict in every relationship. In communication, we say there's conflict in every relationship. The conflict doesn't define the relationship. What defines it is how we manage the conflict.
Yeah. And even
There's growth
it's the relationship becomes stronger after the repair, even more than before the rupture.
We are made stronger in the broken places. Yeah.
Marcus, please tell our listeners where they can further connect with you.
Sure. At marcushiggs.com. That's where I am. Either there or on LinkedIn, you can find me. I'm not so much on other social media, but LinkedIn or marcushiggs.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I was made for this podcast and this conversation. Thank you for making it happen.